Now, back by popular demand, it's the Lance Roberts Show.
Good morning, it's 6:06 as we kick off this Monday morning, just 4 days till Friday. I'm joking, it's Monday. Anyway, we've got a lot of stuff to get into today, of course. Big week coming up. This is, of course, Valentine's Day week. So, guys, come on. Let's not forget that Valentine's Day is Thursday, right around the corner. And, of course, it'll be here before you know it. So, for your personal self, safety and health, it's a good idea to get out there and get a little bit of Valentine's Day taken care of before then. Russell just swings by the Kroger flower shop. This is an annual thing.
Don't undersell the Kroger flower shop.
No doubt. And I was just about to say, one of the best places to go to get nice quality flowers. Russell attested this too.
Yeah.
I will.
Go by your local Krogers, and they have great flowers and great packages. And we actually did a live broadcast from a Kroger's, I guess maybe 4 or 5 years ago. They had a big tent set out front. We actually broadcasted from the front of the Kroger's, and people were coming by buying flowers and gifts. So anyway, Valentine's Day coming up. So don't forget. I've already taken care of my wife. I hope she's not listening this morning. But
well, you let that cat out of the bag.
Well, no, I just I've done my job early. I actually got it done over the weekend. So that's actually the great thing with technology today. As long as you can get the package before your wife gets to it, when Amazon delivers it, it works. So. You just have to be a little sneaky about making sure you're home that day when it comes.
That's the only change.
Exactly. But anyway, that is coming up on Friday, and of course, on Thursday, don't forget. And then on Friday, another big thing on Friday is, of course, the whole border talk issue. And this has been one of the things that we've been grappling with, with the government this year, which has been, we had the shutdown, one of the longest shutdowns in U.S. history was earlier this year. And it was on the back of this whole issue of the funding of the border wall. Now, the way we resolved that temporarily was to come to an agreement, reopen the government temporarily, a short-term funding bill, 3 weeks, to allow a quote-unquote bipartisan group to come together to come up with some ideas to, help solve this border crisis issue. And, it's interesting, anytime that we have these bipartisan groups, they never work out. If you'll remember, after the 2011 debt debate, we were having the issue with the debt ceiling limit. Of course, we had the whole debt default issue coming up. Everybody was freaking out that we were going to default on our debt because we weren't going to raise the debt ceiling. And so we came up with this idea that, we would institute a policy, and we put together this bipartisan group of individuals to come up with $1 trillion worth of budget cuts. We were actually going to cut the budget. Believe it or not, it was going to happen. And in order to do that, they were supposed to come together, come to an agreement on these budget cuts and try to cut spending the government. And now, again, this is back in 2011. President Obama was president at the time. And the trigger was that they couldn't come up with this agreement. There was an automatic sequester of $1 trillion. And, of course, this is what led Ben Bernanke ultimately to do quantitative easing part 3 in late 2013 because he was afraid that fiscal cliff, this is what it was called, that when this $1 trillion of sequester was going to hit, it would immediately throw the country into a recession. So they just flooded the system with liquidity at that point to help, preempt the impact of this fiscal cliff. Of course, it never occurred. But the point was, and of course, and by the way, we've now completely reversed all that sequester. So that whole $1 trillion worth of cuts, that's gone. Plus, we've added about $1 trillion in spending since then. So, so much for getting the budget under control. But what was interesting about this, of course, is this is, this bipartisan group has come together, come to agreement, couldn't get anything agreed to, could not agree to one single little thing on spending cuts. And of course, we wound up with a sequester. So it was interesting to see this time we put together another bipartisan group to come up with a issue for border wall security. And not surprisingly, 3 weeks later, they've come up with nothing. And on Friday, they're going to propose, a little bit of money to do things like, security. Congressman Ted Poe, we had him on our show a few times last year before he retired from Congress, talking about the issue of border security. And he had been down to the border several times and had visited there, been there, looked at it. And he was talking about things other than an actual physical border wall, surveillance, additional drones, electronic technology, etc., So one of the things that's going to be proposed by this group by Friday is going to be funding for non-border wall related border security items. Now, we'll see what happens here, but the expectation is that if there's not 5.7 billion or some number around there for an actual physical border wall, it will be a no-go from President Trump. And of course, that would theoretically not theoretically, but will, if they don't come to some type of funding agreement over this plan, we will be back into another government shutdown very shortly. Now, again, as we continue to see, these government shutdowns are not that big of a deal. We talk about them, and everybody kind of gets freaked out about them and in the media, but when we actually have a government shutdown, federal spending doesn't really reduce that much. And of course, whatever federal spending is reduced is basically escrowed. And as soon as these individuals come back to work, they get all that payment back. So, it's not an issue that these government shutdowns actually cause that big of an issue economically speaking. It does provide a little bit of drag temporarily that does get reversed in fairly short order. So, one of the big leverage points that Donald Trump keeps getting out of this is that the more we go into these shutdowns and the less that what appears to happens, that just gives him more ammunition to shut the government down. And of course, this big rally now, what does this have to do with the stock market? This big rally that we've had in the market since the December 24th lows is going to be a case here for Donald Trump to actually shut the government down again, because the market's giving him the breathing room, just like the Federal Reserve has been getting some breathing room here lately because of the market rally to raise rates and to still continue to reduce their balance sheet. This rally in the market is also giving the president some cover to actually hold his ground on this border wall funding. So Friday is going to be kind of the big issue here when we find out what's going to happen with that border wall. We've got a lot more stuff to talk about this morning in relation to the markets and, of course, your money and what's happening. We've got lots of news happening around the world. So we come back from the break. We'll be back with more of the Lance Roberts Show. Get by the website, lancerobertsshow.com. Get our latest podcast, videos, and more, and subscribe. And our latest newsletter is out on the site now. Simply just click the newsletter link, lancerobertsshow.com. We'll be right back.
Get daily investment news you can use, delivered at the speed of the internet. Sign up for Lance's newsletter now at lancerobertsshow.com.